when you see this here on top of the hood, which has also this security and safety function, then everyone knows this is a Mercedes-Benz. And now the star is also being carried upright by the Mercedes EQS to say, I'm still here and I belong here. This is a story of a struggling hero, because on the one hand, the Mercedes EQS is one of the most aerodynamic efficient cars built ever from series production, and is also one of the very rare cars which can go easily more than 600 kilometers or 400 miles on a single charge, and not in ideal conditions, but in real-world range. And on the other hand, this model here has been struggling in sales. Why is that? And what is Mercedes doing? What are they doing to succeed in the future? We're going to find out, and if they will succeed in doing so.
And you have already seen it, we will treat you with beautiful images from the Großglockner Alpenstraße, a beautiful alpine road in Austria. You will also see it throughout this review.
Everything of that with Thomas Nautical in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. And there we are with our rubber light red vehicle here, special manufacturer paint. And also, yeah, the standing star now with the EQS update. And this is, by the way, a function, first of all, here a little bit against stealing. Of course, with a lot of force, you can still, rip it off. And also in this direction, also, goes back a little bit for pedestrian safety. So when someone is getting run over, then the star is not really hurting you. At the same time, next to the upright standing star, you can still get the AMG line without it, if you don't like it, So both is possible, AMG line without, then the exclusive line with the standing star. At the same time, the exclusive line also gets the AMG line design in the lower part. So now it's more about a decision, do you want the standing star here or do you want to have it central here in the front hood? And one of the struggles here so far is indeed the design. With this refresh, they're working on it, and there's more to come. So soon I'll tell you more about what they plan next with this vehicle. This is the first of some updates to come, and we'll get you all of this covered very soon. So then this hood here cannot be opened and is really aerodynamic. You can see it right here. The only thing you can open here is this, there we go, this flap here for the wiper fluid actually. So this is here, I can open it one more time here. This is then the opening for the wiper fluid. You can fill it in right here. Car is also equipped with a HEPA filter, and the design was thought to appeal to the Chinese market, and then they found out, in China they're buying more and more own vehicles from the home production, and also less luxury sedans but more MPVs. That's why they recently also presented the Mercedes V-Class in this new luxury generation that will also come all electric, because in Chinese market you have a lot of traffic going straight and so on, and then people go for more room, MPV luxury cars, whereas for example in Europe, in the US, we drive more corners also when we carry someone in the rear, and that's why it's better to have luxury sedans still, because it's better with the G-force and so on, how people conceive it when they sit in the rear, in contrast to driving an MPV. The length here is 5 meters 22 or 205 inches, really long vehicle, and that together with this falling roofline helps with the drag coefficient of 0.20, and together with a lucid air, it's the most aerodynamic series production car out there. Wheels from 19 to 21 inch, these here are the biggest 21 inch wheels, really massive in the styling. And yeah, I said that design was or is one of the problems, so some just don't like the design. That was also one of the hurdles in the sales process. And more pros and cons coming up later on. You can see this will be followed throughout the review. There's a lot of great things to say about this vehicle, but there are also there's some things they still need to improve. In the rear, the light strip goes all the way through, and EQS 450 Plus means this is the top range version, rear-wheel drive only. And this has an acceleration figure around 6 seconds. And there are also all-wheel drive versions where you get an additional electric motor than in the front. And then you're getting closer to below 6 seconds, more moving towards just about over 4 seconds in the acceleration figure. The AMG 53 version, by the way, you can still order it on the Northern American market, not available anymore in Europe and in the UK. In another market specific, in the UK, you can still order the 350, the entry-level version with the small battery, now at 96 kilowatt hours. That is 5 kilowatt hour more than before the update. All other versions, the 450 version and the ones above that, they get the new 118 kilowatt hour battery. So that's 10 kilowatt hours more than before, and that will even boost the range, of course. I mean, 118 kilowatt hours is significantly large here for an electric vehicle, and together with this aerodynamic efficiency, as I said, it can easily go more than 600 kilometers or about 400 miles real-world range. We'll do a very nice alpine road trip for you here today with beautiful mountain roads and everything, and also a lot of topographic changes, which are not that of a problem for the EV, I hope. And then we'll also keep you updated with a concise consumption figure later on for this day here. Here, by the way, this light strip at the side has these 5 curls. That's always with an EQS model. And then about the charging. So you either have 11 or 22 kilowatt AC, you can get that optionally, and DC charging, see electric charging flap. You can also close it just like this again. DC charging, 200 kilowatt peak for the big battery, 170 for the smaller battery, and they will go 31 for the big battery or 32 minutes from 10 to 80% state of charge. Of course, at this point, not the quickest anymore. The new Mercedes CLA, the new generation, that one will be even quicker in charging. We will also soon cover this model then here for you. And there are still more updates planned for this EQS. So they have the update now with the new standing star on the top and so on. Now with the battery upgrades, what's coming then in 2026 is another visual facelift. And then the EQS will also get the drivetrain of the CLA, and we're hoping to see even more efficiency gains in that one then, and probably some more acceleration boost and so on. And on the technology side, this car is on a very high level. Means air suspension is standard, plus what's also standard is the rear axis steering. You can see it back there. It already works and standstill. You can see how the rear wheels turn in the opposite direction. Standard is 4.5 degrees, and then you can also optionally go for a 10 degrees in the opposite direction. And the interesting thing is here something that I've been criticizing, because on the hardware side, it can always do 10 degrees. But you buy the 4.5 degrees first and then have to unlock. Leah is shaking her head, and she's right about that. So the car comes with that hardware. Everyone is capable of that when you buy an EQS, you know. But the 10 degrees in the opposite direction, in the front wheels, you have to unlock with an extra price, because that's basically like detuned by software at first, and then you unlock it. And almost all manufacturers are coming up with these kind of logics now, and I don't think that's a good decision, because honestly, I think what's the most important thing for a car manufacturer to do? To have satisfied customers, make customers happy, however they do it. And these small things, they don't work well with the customers, you know. So I think instead of saving some money there or trying to, you know, get some more money out of the customer, you might lose some customer overall to buy the vehicle or not, you know. So I think a better treatment, a more fair treatment of the customer would be the better approach in this respect. But definitely gotta say, because we talked about the pro and con points about this vehicle, on the technological side, this is an amazing vehicle, no doubt about that.
By the way, who bought you this nice shirt?
Yes.
It fits so well to the
Yes,
car.
finally I got some red clothes that fits to a red vehicle. Yeah, very rarely do we see that. Thanks, Leah, for this fashion counseling. And important for all-wheel drive models now that also have an electric motor in the front, you now get an uncoupling of the front electric motor, so it's only used on demand when it's really needed. It's always coupled in the sport mode or when you really hit the floor. Otherwise, you will have the efficiency of a rear-wheel drive model still more or less with the all-wheel drive model. Now we're heading towards the interior, and very important info as well with this update here. Now the heat pump is standard. Super important, because so far in wintertime, the range was massively reduced, especially when you go inner city drives. We had like 32 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometer's consumption or something in like cold time, short trips and so on. Yeah, but now with the heat pump, that will be significantly better. And now heading to the interior, you can have comfort doors, electric doors, and then I can set a function on the key that when I press and hold, these doors automatically open for me. You can also individually rule them from the interior. And here the inside of the door, here nice Neotex material, looks beautiful, feels nice. Here also for your elbow, could be a little bit softer here though, but beautiful work here also with matte wood. 4 levers for the windows, very important to say it nowadays because the CLA looks like this. Yeah, you can't believe it, but this one here, the EQS still has it. Also nice covering at the inside of the door, so the build quality is actually quite nice here. And you can also close the door with just hitting here the brake pedal. That's also another comfort feature. There we go. And you can also see here the soft close. And yeah, the focus is here on the automatic doors because when you slam the doors, they don't sound that good. Could be worse, but that's not the focus. The focus is really using these automatic doors. Or here, I mean, if you do it manually, here with the soft close. However, you also don't necessarily need these options, of course. Cockpit with the update, the EQS now in all versions always gets the hyper screen, either way, everything blacked out or when everything comes to life. Main infotainment unit right there, passenger screen and also digital instruments. Of course, a large black panel visual part. Nice ambient light integration right here. Then this Neotex style neoprene on top of the dash. Looks nice, feels nice. I love these turbine vents, for example. They also have the clicking sound. You can argue about the styling here of the hyperscreen in general, but the rest of the build quality stuff is actually, that looks really nice. Then here we have a nice matte wood interior in the top part here. Cup holders are not that adaptive though. I mean, they adapt, yes, but they don't hold bottles tight enough, just like the paper coffee cups and so on. That works. And also the inductive charging pad here in the front is so deep in there that you really struggle to get your phone out, and may have to put the cup holders in, then you can get it out better. And then there's like this rubber pad you can put out for cleaning, but that's also like not high quality. So there are once again pros and cons about this one. And yeah, when you close it, then you think again, oh, that's nice, really. Also here, this same Neotex surface that really looks again nice, feels nice, split opening, a lot of space underneath, 2 USB-C chargers right there. There are more 2 more USB-C chargers in the front there and even more in the rear. By the way, glove box, standard, it's not a standard opening, but here like a separate button. And then it also folds on smoothly, really tiny though. And seating comfort. So the thing is that in Germany you can also get Art Deco high-grade leatherette and also microfiber for the AMG line. They are also more comfortable, these surfaces, and of course more animal-friendly. And the thing is that although Mercedes says this is our sustainable luxury flagship, then again, on most markets, like in China, in the US or in the UK, you can only get the animal skin again. And that's also where many other manufacturers are way ahead, especially BMW, offering materials that are better for the customers and better for the animals. However, you have these nice cushions here. They are then from microfiber, they are soft, and this actually relaxes you while driving pretty much. And again, the thing is that the seating, the base seating comfort is okay, but not the best, and I would expect more from a car at that price point. And then here, some headroom left here. It's no problem with one is 89. We do have a panoramic roof that still opens, and that is also rarely seen in nowadays EVs. There we go, can leave some fresh air in, also maybe for our Alpine road trip. Then we have some more fun when the weather allows it. At the same time, this one also still has a rear shade when it's getting really, really hot. There we go, yeah, that is with the sliding thing again. So, and it's also split in front and rear, and the rear passengers can then also decide about their split then. And since this vehicle here is equipped with the comfort doors, I can also operate them here from the inside. And for example then, Leah is standing there on the outside. And instead of reaching over there, I can here then slide and hold. Wait a minute. Yeah, you really have to hit it. There we go. So then the door is opening, oh, like a gentleman function. And then I can also either slide back here or also press on close all. Please press the control panel. Okay, yeah. Press and hold. There we go. And then everything is closing. Steering wheel, up and down, electric way, also classic columns here for drive selection or here for the wipers and so on. Then shifting pedals for recuperation level. So with the pedals here, you can go to stronger recuperation, you can go back to normal, that is the base setting. Or no-go recuperation is then like a sailing mode, and there's also an adaptive recuperation that depends on the situation, soon more to that. Digital instruments, you can also change the stylings here, for example to a sportier gauge and so on, whatever you prefer, or also navigation and assistance and so on. And then you have the main infotainment system with the integrated map. It's really large, of course, but Apple CarPlay, Android Auto also possible. I think it's quick enough, can be a little bit quicker, of course. But then here the main menu, this is not the only generation that we have in the E-Class, however, but I think it's good. Although this is here a digital solution, and I prefer always haptic things, you can still easily control the climate unit because it's always right there in that layer or layer. Happy to see here, of course. Can show us the passenger screen. You always have to think about if you really need that, of course. I mean, now it's standard here inside. She can control maybe something here with the seats while I'm still looking at the GPS. That would be one use case for that. And here the Apple CarPlay integration's really large, actually. So that's pretty cool. You can always hit the things then directly and always go back to the main menu if you like. And very important as well, to deactivate the speed chime thing, you can directly press here for this EU speed chime law. And alternatively, you can also press and hold the mute button. This would also activate or deactivate it. Update for the rear luxury compartment here. First of all, the rear doors. This is neoprene style texture. This feels really nice, looks pretty cool. Also everything covered here. Nice with the matte wood and one more the neoprene style here. So the build quality at the inside of the door is really nice. And also seat cooling and seat heating for the rear seats, both available also at the same time when you, for example, in wintertime you want to get dry and heated at the same time. This is the way. And then I've set the driver's seat to my driving position. Here the passenger seat, you can also get this rear entertainment if you like. But one problem with the EQS is it's extremely long, but when we have like tall drivers in the front, there's not so much legroom left in comparison to the length of the vehicle. You know, you can see it right here. It's still enough. Yes, of course, that's fine. But I would imagine that it is in a way more. Headroom here with 189, 6'2", also works. This is no problem, although we have the falling roofline and so on. And then you can now get an additional luxury package here for the rear seats. That is, for example, including here these additional pillows here. So then this area is a little bit more comfortable, and here also nice microfiber is being used. Also here for the head pillows right here. And that's actually a cool thing. And that also shows that these materials are actually more comfortable than here the animal skin also in the rear. And this also thing that the base comfort in the rear is not ideal. That's still an issue with the EQS, but here with these pillows here and there, they have improved it. And there's also, when you have this additional package, now a function possible. Here you can press one button, then also the front seat goes forward. You can, for example, I think I showed it in the studio, also get like a small footrest which you place on the lower floor button. But here you also have a lot of space then, and I mean, still, of course, for the driver to look at the side mirror, but then now you have, of course, ample of space and you're more flexible also when you sit in the rear. New package, you also have electric control here of the rear bench. There we go, put it forward or backward. It's a 2/3, 1/3 split. So on the other side, I could put this 2/3 forward. And then here, and fold this down for some more space, inductive charging. And this is another table here in the rear. You can also take it out. Other than that, you can also control the entertainment and so on with it. But still, can it keep up with the S-Class or 7 Series in the rear seating comfort just from the base seating? No, it cannot. The cool thing again here with the EQS, first of all, the flipping logo, that you have a fastback trunk. Although you have the sedan style and the great aerodynamics, here this wide opening making it estate-alike from the flexibility. 610 liters, and this rails here automatically. And I mean, the easiest solution here with the manual one, you can also take it out completely, no problem. Luggage fits in easily. Here the width between the wheel arches is little bit less than a meter or 40 inches here, then a little bit more. The normal length here is about 1.20 meters or 48 inches, and the maximum height right here is about 29 inches or 73 centimeters. A little bit less here then, of course. Underneath, some storage here, for example, for the charging cable. So that is actually possible there. You could, in the base version, also fold the seats. However, since we here have this special luxury rear seating package, it's not possible. Then you can only use this electric function to put them a little bit more forward, like 1/3, or the other third would also work. Then you have somewhat like a cargo position, but it doesn't help you that much, honestly. Sport mode. Plop. That's 100 kilometers an hour. I mean, considering it's just the rear-wheel drive version, good acceleration. Doesn't get the Leah meter going because she's used to some quicker stuff now. Meanwhile, but definitely the rear-wheel drive version is enough power-wise. We can definitely say that. And depending on the figure, like 6.2 seconds in the EU figure, 5.9 is the US figure then, because it's not to 6. This is not to 62, but to 60 kilometers an hour. In the sport mode, we also have, you know, more throttle input and so on. Let's see if the steering also behaves different. Going back to comfort, yeah, in the comfort mode, the steering is way lighter indeed. And of course, since we have the air suspension here, it's also an adaptive one. When you're in the sport mode with the adaptive air suspension, then it's also stiffer. And it depends really what's better for you or also for the passenger. For example, I like the floaty air suspension ride. However, Leah says that sometimes when the air suspension feels too floaty, that she's getting sick from that, and especially when we go some alpine pass corners and so on, that she would rather prefer than the sport setting of the air suspension. Rear axle steering is something that you feel immensely with this vehicle. I can also soon show that to you. Of course, not when you're running straight, but more when you're like roundabout, in U-turn, on the parking lot, and so on. Comfort setting is of course then good for city driving. Eco setting, or the E setting here, is even decreased throttle input for best efficiency and so on. And of course, at the end of our longer tour today, we'll also give a concise consumption figure for today as well. It's pretty silent here because we have here the dual insulation of the glass, pretty cool, the lamination, so you absolutely hear nothing from the outside world, and even when you are at higher speeds and so on. And it is a nice cruiser. It has a long wheelbase that gives a lot of calmness and stability to the drive. And here, driving into a tunnel, ooh, look at that. I love it. I really love it. I think it's really beautiful, spectacular. Also here, when you change the temperature, for example, you have this effect. Also when you go colder again, if you would have it like standard on green, for example, the ambient light, then you would also then even more see the difference, that then it becomes blue and here it becomes red and so on. Some say it's too much, but I think it's what's making a Mercedes to have this also maybe sometimes for some too flashy effect. But I think it's a very luxurious atmosphere. I love it. Also how sensual the line is being drawn in the interior. I think it's pretty cool. It's very warm outside at the moment, so we also have the seat cooling activated, seat heating. You can also activate it at the same time for all 4 seats. It's also pretty cool. Yeah, but I think you can just enjoy it here in the tunnel. And I mean, now the tarmac is rough. The tunnel's pretty loud, but we have the dual insulation, both front and the rear windows, that is keeping it in comparison relatively silent. And about recuperation, starts a normal recuperation here, so slight deceleration when on. I can also set it to strong, then it's really more in the direction of one Leah goes like this. Yeah, maybe not too good on the passenger unless you really finely dose it with a throttle or E-pedal, so to speak. And you can also set to sailing, no recuperation. When you start up the vehicle, it's always set on the standard mode again, by the way, or you press and hold and have adaptive or intelligent recuperation. So now when there's no one in front of me, I lift my foot, just rolling. And when there's someone in the front, then there would be deceleration. And in a way, it's intelligent and clever. On the other hand, it is less predictive what the car is doing. And I prefer a setting where I have a constant same recuperation, be it nothing or hard, because then I exactly know what I expect from the vehicle. You can argue for different solutions, but the question is, what do you like best? Mercedes actually told me that in the D-, the car is even a little bit more efficient. Why? It's like, why does it even make a difference? Because when you are on the brake pedal, there's first recuperation being used and then only the friction brakes are being applied. They said that actually when using the brake pedal, there's like minimum losses due to the hydraulic system. But it's not really that much. So it will make more difference if you feel good in the mode you're driving and you are driving with looking ahead and you're driving efficient. That will be a more significant thing than if you force yourself into that D- mode always, although you're not comfortable with it. When you're comfortable with it, that's fine, you know, but rather drive the mode that you feel best with. By the way, as for the assistance systems, there is even level 3 up to 95 kilometers an hour if you order that package. Don't have it here, but there's level 2, of course. And the question is, with the lane keeping, it's meant for motorway use. But see here, even this not. That was too sharp. I had as a corner earlier that went well. Maybe this one. This should work. I tend to try these systems here on the countryside road, even though they're not meant for that, because here you can really see what these systems are made of, actually. And let's see here, for example. Very smooth. Very, very smooth. See here, you hardly feel how it's steering. But of course, you also saw the limits of this one. At some point, it's just too sharp. This shouldn't be too sharp. So here, I'm still responsible with level 2, of course, level 3 not. Or the marmot sign. So maybe we can see some marmots today here, groundhogs. So Leah's already looking forward to that one. Here's he very smoothly done here from that cruise control. Yeah, Leah is all about the marmots today. Wants to see the animals and whatever about the car. Yeah, I'm also a little bit interested in the car, definitely. That's my job, you know. So then here, once again in the city, back again, always the smooth transitions between driving quicker and slower, and yeah, it's really a very nice cruiser and works also well with all the recuperation settings and so on. And I'm always finding new small details, for example, in the front windscreen. So here everything is clear. And then on the very top, like many other windscreens, there's a tinting to make it, you know, that you don't even have to use the sunshade, for example. And this is enough what's inbuilt in the windscreen. And sometimes it's very visible. But here, it's so smooth to transition inside the windshield between very clear and tinted, that on the one hand, you don't realize there is a tinting because it's so smooth, the transition. But on the other hand, it is so functional that it helps you and that it's there and helps you. So that is one of the small details that is very well executed here. And some sporty driving here on the Großglockner Alpenstraße, so the Alpine road of the Großglockner, the famous mountain in Austria. Beautiful road, definitely, and you can also drive sporty stuff here, definitely, and you can also feel something of the rear axle steering. At slower speeds, the rear wheels turn in the opposite direction, nice and smooth acceleration out. In this case, the rear, like the rear drive model only, I feel even drives better because rear drive only cars always come better out of the corners, a little bit better. Of course, in wintertime, then here I could use the all-wheel drive, but not in summertime. That's why it's really nice. Smooth steering here. I don't have to steer too much. At the same time, there's no dead area. And also when you turn in a little bit more suddenly, actually pretty cool reaction as for that. Here, a little bit acceleration out. I have a great feeling for the car. And imagine, once again, this is a 5.22 long vehicle, or 205 inches. It's extremely long. But due to the rear axle steering and the nice steering wheel feel, it's still very well to maneuver. And the rear axle steering always kind of fakes a shorter wheelbase, and you feel that the car doesn't feel as long as it actually is. And also the transitions between accelerating and braking and so on are very, very smooth. So it's not only a cruising machine, it is indeed also a driving machine. And considering the car is that long and that heavy, it's still a lot of fun to drive, definitely. Consumption, meanwhile, went up, of course, when I drive uphill all the time, but that's a good thing about the electric vehicles. We can use the recuperation when going downhill later on again, and then see what we have as the final consumption. And our final consumption for today, we went up the Großglockners, and yeah, up there was really cold. So down here, more like 19, 20 degrees, 22 degrees Celsius in the morning, like 72 degrees Fahrenheit. But then up on top, more towards freezing temperatures, 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius and so on. And there, of course, then the heat pump also had to work for sure. And went down again, and yeah, did almost 4 hours of driving, only 150 kilometers because it wasn't too high speed. Then we ended up with 19 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers, so 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour. That is a realistic real range in these conditions of 615 kilometers or 380 miles. And pretty good figure, definitely. I mean, you can of course try some faster motorway driving and so on. And on the one hand, that's maybe worse when you go too high speed. On the other hand, we also had low temperatures, so we had also not the ideal conditions, let's take it that way. So I think overall still a good result for this vehicle, and we can also keep testing it in different conditions if you like us to do so. Pricing, it starts just above 100,000 euros or dollars, or also pounds, something all the same. And if you nicely spec a rear drive 450 plus one, which is the preferred model, I think, because it has enough acceleration, yet at the same time it's the most efficient one, you pop up some like 30,000 euros or something. So for 130,000 euros, you can get a nicely spec one. If you then, of course, add like a special paint and so on, you can also get to 150 or 160 with some more unnecessary extras and so on. But that's roughly the spice, the spice spectrum. The spice extends life. No, we won't go to Dune now. So the thing is that there's another problem for this vehicle, that in the high spec versions, it's just too expensive for, also comparing to the market competitors. However, if you now think about if you get this large battery and stay relatively base spec, get the rear drive version and don't add too many extras, then I think it can still make sense. So what happened to this car and what will happen in the future? So as I said, design-wise, it didn't appeal to enough people so far. Now with some slight changes in 2026, even more changes to that. BMW went more in the direction to build the same vehicle, electric and combustion engine, in the same design. And that's where Mercedes is also heading to. It's not that the EQS is dead right now. They will still keep building it. As I said, 2026 will be the next change to it. And that means it will run for a couple of more years. They wouldn't do a facelift, another one in 2026, if they want to cancel the car immediately. But round about like with 2030 or something like that, they will announce a new S-Class, which is then also an electric S-Class. So the new S-Class will come a little bit before that. We'll also keep you updated with that. And I would say up to 2030, something like that, they will also then launch an electric S-Class that will look the same like the combustion engine S-Class, like what BMW was doing. Until then, the EQS is still out there, now with some changes like the standing star here on top of the hood. It's still super efficient, it has a large battery, and it has a lot of technology packed on the interior. On the downside, for some the design, comfort in the rear, upgraded now for the rear, but still other cars are more comfortable in the rear, that's the thing. And also the animal skin alternatives in all markets, not only in Germany. You need them nowadays. BMW is offering them pretty much, and everyone is buying them, the animal skin alternatives. And they are really happy with it because they are better for the customer and better for the animals. Yeah, so some things are still lacking. We're looking forward to what they do with the changes in 2026. And if the car then can keep up and succeed even more. Chinese market, of course, really tough, with customers going more for MPVs than for luxury sedans. However, US and China is still, well, these two are still the biggest markets for the Mercedes EQS. So it will be even more interesting if this first update here will appeal to the customers right now. What do you think? Tell me in the comments your opinion about the EQS, and now check out more of the luxury EV reviews.